Waiting for everyone to join.
Exactly. So otherwise, I think from my side also, we are all looking good. Let's say as soon as they both join, we are good to go.
Otherwise, it's going to be very quick.
One to one.
Exactly.
So when is your holidays planned, Daniel?
I've just come back from a business trip.
Okay.
So we did a couple of countries, and I got back on Sunday, and then I'm just going to take a week in August to go and catch up with my family that's traveling at the moment, and then bring them back.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Zaman, Muhammad, you can hear us well. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. So when he joins you, let me know. Yes. I think probably we'll kick off. I think we can go live. Yeah. So yeah, because I can see that, others are waiting on the other side. Yeah. Hello and welcome everyone to yet another session of the Organic Majlis. And the topic today is organic on the shelf. How fresh produce is reshaping the retail demand in the GCC. I'm your host, Shinu Pillai from GL Exhibitions, organizers of the 23rd Middle East Organic and Natural Product Expo in Dubai, taking place from 17 to 19 November this year at the Dubai World Trade Center. The Organic Majlis is a Middle East online community of exporters and importers of all things bio, natural, and organic. The GCC fresh and perishable market is undergoing a transformative shift with rising consumer demand for organic, clean, natural, and sustainably sourced products. As awareness around health, authenticity, and ethical sourcing grows, brands that offer transparency and natural products are gaining rapid traction. With a young, conscious population and strong retail infrastructure, the region is fast becoming a hotspot for innovative, safe products that align with cultural and religious values. During our masterclass today, we will have the privilege of hearing from leading importers, distributors, and e-commerce leaders who will shed light on the growing demand, policy landscape, emerging trends, and much more. So without further delay, allow me to introduce our esteemed panelists for today. So first up, we have Daniel Cabral. So Daniel is from Kibsons International. So Kibsons is a pioneer in the UAE's fresh produce landscape, known for its commitment to quality, sustainability, and direct-to-door e-commerce innovation. Under Daniel's leadership, the procurement division has built strong global sourcing networks, ensuring top-quality fruits, vegetables, and health-focused groceries for Kibsons' ever-growing customer base across retail, wholesale, and its rapidly expanding online platform. With over 2 decades of experience in the fresh produce industry, Daniel Cabral is a seasoned professional specializing in export, import, e-commerce, and retail of fruits, vegetables, and FMCG products. For more than 17 years, Daniel has served as a procurement director at Kibsons, one of UAE's most trusted names in fresh food supply and home delivery. Once again, Daniel, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you for the invitation.
Next up, we have Muhammad Zaman. He's a business development manager for Organic and Bio. He's a seasoned professional with over 8 years of experience in product development, business management, and market expansion. As project manager and business development manager for Organic and Bio, he focuses on both local and international organic markets, driving strategic partnerships and access to ethically grown food. A strong advocate of sustainable food systems, Muhammad has been associated with the Organic and Natural Show for a long time now, and he's committed to promoting the impact of organic agriculture, health, and the environment. So before we move into the panel of questions, I would also like to welcome all our attendees who are on the other side, who has joined us from around the globe pretty much. I can see a staggering 200 plus numbers on the screen. So once again, thank you for your patience and a very warm welcome to today's session. So what I've done basically is that, we have been collecting all the questions and we have kind of like clubbed them together so that, it's easy for the panelists to, attend and share their thoughts on. So quite naturally, as you would expect, the first question that has come up is, what are the current product trends in the GCC for fresh and perishable products? Or in other words, I would say, which categories and from which countries are seeing the highest demand? So I think quite naturally, I would head straight to you, Daniel. What is it that you're
that's
seeing?
fine. Again, thank you for having me. The GCC and especially the UAE has seen, I want to say, a growing trend in local produce, local organic. There's been a huge amount of investment in vertical farms, in farms locally. So when we look at especially the leafy items, the vegetables, tomatoes, mushrooms, even to some extent berries, we have definitely seen an organic growth in demand because of supply, because of close proximity, and that is continuing to grow. When we look at the export side, we have seen continued growth in berries specifically. So if we're looking at a full basket of products, you're going to have your usual suspects. There is new varieties of apples, a new variety of grapes, and that is growing. But if we look at our the quickest growth, the most growth and potential, it still revolves around the berries. There's been a big increase in blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, and to a lesser extent on blackberries. And if we're looking at the origins that we're talking specifically, we're seeing more coming out of the southern hemisphere, being Southern Africa. So there's been an enormous investment in places like Zimbabwe, South Africa, Zambia, that we're seeing more come through. Out of the north, we're seeing, Peru, continued growth out of Peru, and even into Morocco. And that's not to say that, we're not bringing in from Spain, from some of the other European countries, and then, of course, Mexico and the US. But if we're looking globally, I would say that, there's definitely a trend on the health benefits and the more readily available, the more affordability around the berries. Before, it used to be extremely expensive for customers to be able to, snack on a punnet of blueberries. That would be considered a treat. I mean, when I first moved to the UAE, they were selling in retail stores for 23 dirhams, 24 dirhams for a 125-gram punnet. Now, single digits. We're talking 650, 750, 950, depending on the size. And, all of a sudden it opens up a whole segment. So I think economies of scale have now come into a portion where it opens up these products that were one very niche to now, more of a mass market. So we're seeing growth on that. And of course, there's always new varieties, but it's how you present it to customers. So the takeaway from that is local organic, local conventional on the vegetable items and berries that we see. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Zaman, before I come to you, I can see that our third panelist, Wilson Phillip, also has joined us. Not sure, we can't see you, Wilson. Are you able to hear us? You're muted. Wilson, are you able to hear us? Okay, that's
and
fine.
I'm sure Wilson Phillips used to be a band as well.
This is connection, Muhammad. So, what is the trend in terms of categories and countries that we are seeing in the, largely speaking, in the fresh and perishable landscape?
Can you please repeat the question, Jim?
Yeah, in terms of trend, which categories of products and from which countries are you seeing, like an upward trend, or have you seen anything, like shifting within, what is it that you are seeing?
See, generally, the situation is completely different. I mean, there are two stories. One is before COVID, one is after COVID. So before COVID, the situation was different. The organic didn't have much demand, much pace, push on that. But after COVID, people got realized that organic is the solution for the health benefits and all. So the trends have changed entirely. After COVID, we clearly saw from the beginning, we clearly saw a big surge of about 200% increase compared to before COVID consumption. And then after that, it's increasing by 5 to 7% every year. And by 2030, the market size is going to be big enough, about $50 million. So this is the market size we are talking about. And in this market, the biggest part is from the local produce, because after the consumption of organic, demand of organic, there has been a lot of local farms who have come up with this organic farm setup, and they are producing a lot of vegetables throughout the year, mostly from in the winter season, which is from November to May or June, you can touch. So this period, local farms are booming, they are producing everything, but the problem and the limitation is they are only producing vegetables, not the fruits, because the soil, the arid climate over here, the temperature, the weather, everything doesn't suit the fruit production over here. So under the organic category, it's just the vegetables. Throughout the year, we import fruit products from around the world. So we are bringing from Lebanon, from India, Kenya, we're bringing from France, Spain, a lot of countries. But mostly, since it's Arab community over here mostly, and then the Western community, so we have the biggest consumption from Lebanon, and then we have the biggest consumption, another part of the consumption is from Europe. So we are bringing from Spain and France a lot of food items throughout the year. And then when it comes to summer, from June to October, this period we bring in all the vegetables from Europe also. So these products are being accepted, being welcomed in UAE, in retail segment, in the e-commerce platforms, and with the consumers as well. And the trends are going towards the height in terms of consumption.
Interesting. That's probably that's a leading question also in what you have said. So I think I can see that Mr. Wilson is driving, so I'm not going to ask him any questions and risk his life. So probably we'll catch up with him at a later stage. So the next question that we have here is, how is the consumer behavior within GCC kind of like evolving? And how is it shaping up the trend that we have been talking about, right?
I'm happy to jump in on this. Look, I think if we're looking at the UAE specifically, or we consider GCC on a wider scale, we're somewhat blessed in the sense that we have such a wide variety of options available to us as consumers. If we look at UAE and I look at our customer base, be it wholesale, retail, or our e-commerce platform, you're trying to service more than 150 nationalities, and you're trying to bring a taste of home for a lot of them. I mean, in some places it makes sense, in some places it doesn't, but you do try to cater for everybody's different tastes. So when we import, we're importing from around the world, and we have everything almost all year round. So when you walk into a retail store over here, you're constantly presented with a huge selection of products. And it's how do you differentiate? So what is it that the customers are looking for? The customers are looking for freshness. They do look for origin. Sometimes it could be the origin that reminds them of home, or it's an origin that they trust. There's a lot of governments and states that work on advocating and highlighting what separates them compared to other countries, and putting marketing budgets behind it. So certain countries are more trusted than others. But more importantly than just having the freshness, it comes down to flavor. It comes down to customers now are spoiled for choice, and I don't mean it's spoiled in a bad way. I mean it's just because there's so much out there that really they can be picky. So what do we do as Kibsons? We look at taste. What will bring that customer back through our door, or order again online, that separates us from the rest. We're not purely buying on price. We're not purely buying on we need a peach on the shelf, and therefore I'll just put any peach on the shelf. No, if the peach does not taste good, don't put it out. It's like I want somebody to have an experience, that they want to go, if I'm buying peaches, I know that I can buy it from there and it's going to taste amazing. And then that's how you get people hooked. I think a lot of retail, unfortunately, does a disservice to this. Sometimes they will put just product for the sake of having it, without really understanding that, okay, maybe there's a shift of season, maybe it's a new variety that they've, just received that nobody has tried. But what's shaping, I want to say consumer behavior is number one, freshness. Nobody wants, tired product being delivered to their house or going into store and seeing that, because then they'll just go somewhere else. So they look for freshness. They buy with their eyes first, and then you look at quality, taste, and affordability. People also shopping with their wallets. So you want to present, quality, but at affordable rates. I think, there's enough there to make it work. We're trying to encourage healthy eating, and I think that's what customers are doing. It's important that you be able to provide something that, their families want to come back for, and encourage, a varied diet. So I'm definitely seeing that shift. People are much more particular about, where they're buying from, what they're buying, and the feedback that they share on that, good or bad, is to take it on board and make sure that, we do the best as we can.
Perfect. I can see that, like a close attention on those consumer behavior is always helping you in terms of, delivering what they're looking at, right? So, Muhammad, are your customers any different, or, are you seeing anything more or less in terms of shift in trend in terms of the consumer behavior?
Daniel explained it quite beautifully about the trends in consumption. One thing he explained very well, which is that the customers are open to, to different varieties, to different origins, to different tastes. So you can bring in, it is not necessary that peach, it has to be of that specific variety. No, you can do experiments, you can bring in any kind of a peach, but especially if it tastes well, of course. So customers are open to experiments, which gives us the confidence that we can, for example, if I'm doing a shipment from France and I'm adding up some new products, so I'm confident because I know that the consumption in the market there and the consumers over here are willing to do experiments on the taste, on the different varieties, and they are willing to spend money on that, which is helping us to try different varieties, to try different origins, and to do much experiments. Yeah.
Yeah, and sorry, I just want to add one thing to that. I mean, I think, the opportunity when we started our e-commerce was exactly that, educating, customers on new varieties. Before, you would go and you would see white grapes, as an example. It wouldn't mention the variety or anything. Now we specifically mention the varieties so that customers, remember, it's like, oh, you know what, I had a grape once and it was an autumn crisp or a cotton candy, and I like that grape. Because otherwise, white grape, they don't know what they're getting. And so they have one experience and they have, let's say, an older Thompson, which is still fine, but maybe they have a prime, which is an early season. And then they're like, oh, no, the white grapes are not good this year. You're like, yeah, but that's early. So, you actually start putting the varieties there. So people start to learn and they say, okay, now I know which ones I like. I like a Royal Golly. In apples, they've done it well. But we need to learn to do that in many others.
Other categories, yeah. Okay. So I think there are two spin-off questions that really comes out from the discussion so far, right? I mean, of course, I understand that assuring freshness would mean a lot, which goes into like the cold chain, the technology, the logistics, and all of that, right? So how is technology per se, including your cold chain, traceability, AI, and all of that, transforming logistics and distribution for perishables in this region?
Look, I think it comes down to visibility is a lot more. Thanks to technology. I mean, when I first started in the industry and we had temperature data in containers, it was, the box with the piece of paper, and you would see the movement. Now you can see live coverage of your container, humidity levels, temperature while in transit. So if there's any issues at a transshipment port, or if pallets are left on tarmac too long, all of that information is fed back, and then you can deal with it appropriately, not only with the suppliers but also the logistics stakeholders, and then also you decide on what you do with the customers and how that gets managed. from an AI sort of perspective, less AI rather than predictability of information on sales is a lot more forthcoming. When you're going to have dips in seasons, be it like in the UAE, July and August, everyone goes on holidays. So, retail sees a significant dip. How do you put that into your demand planning? That becomes more and more accurate the more data that is inputted, the more you go along. So it's about taking that data and being able to use it to to the best of its possibility. But at the end of the day, we're in the fresh produce business. It's about picking up the phone, talking to growers, understanding, there could be a weather issue, there can be shipping issues, there can be, exchange rate issues, whatever it is. No two seasons are ever the same. Just when you think something else comes behind you and hits you. So it's one thing my father always said, who was also, he is in the fruit business and was in the fruit business, is the fruit business will always keep you humble. Just when you think something else will surprise you. Yeah. So cold chain for us is paramount. I mean, that's a no-brainer. That's been at the core of our business, dealing in the Middle East, for the past 42 years as a company. That is integrated in everything we do, from clearance to storage to, when we deliver it to our customers, be that retail, wholesale, or e-commerce. That is just DNA, and it's expected. We monitor it. It's what we cherish. It reduces our wastages, which is very important. It extends shelf life to our customers when it comes to, in their fridge. I mean, when we started the e-commerce and we were delivering to homes, we had one lady that, sent an email and it's like, I've kept your lettuce in my fridge for, 10 days and it's still fine. What have you done to it? And we're like, we've done nothing. We have maintained cold chain from source all the way through. And, you reduce your food waste like that. So yeah, cold chain is, I think, for anybody dealing in the fresh produce industry here, and my fellow panelists will say the same. Cold chain is key.
Yeah. So how is technology logistics? What's the latest that you see, Mohammed?
So the technology for us is important. Of course, it helps us. See, the most important part of the organic food business is the traceability. So with us, the assistance of technology starts with the traceability. From seed to the final product reaches to us. So all that data, all these information, all the tracks that can help us to reach back to the seed are actually, this is the part where technology is playing the most vital role in our industry. Because when a consumer picks up a fruit or a product from the shelf, or when retailers like Kibson itself, when they are importing or taking those products from them or for themselves, of course they want it to lead back to this the seeding part, so that they can verify that the product is grown organically. There was no process which doesn't comply with the organic procedures. So that's one part of the technology that helps us. Another part of it is the testing. So now there are latest technologies that have come up for the testing of organic product, because when we are supplying to the consumers and the customers, retailers, they want to make sure, they want to see the proof the product is organic. So we often run these surveys for us as well, that we want to have the confidence that products which we are sourcing from different parts of the world are organic. So there are different technologies, different methods of testing that help us to verify the organic and authenticity of the product. So it helps us a lot. And then, of course, the data, the information from the beginning to the end, it helps us in the forecasting, it helps us to reduce our wastage, it helps us to improve our operations, to know which products will be moving in which months. So that data, that information is helping us to plan with our suppliers that, okay, let's plan. First quarter, I want these items from you. Second quarter, I don't want these 5 from you. I want rest of them from you. So this information, this technology, this data, everything helping us to plan out our overall year with our suppliers, and ultimately have a maximum fulfillment rate with our business. Yeah, it's vital. It's very important. And of course, what Daniel mentioned about the coaching part is a pain.
Okay, I understand that, developing that predictive data from the trends that you come across, I mean, of course, for better fulfillment, and at the same time, whether it's logistics or cold chain, like all throughout, right? Clear. My second question to what that spin off from our earlier discussion on trends was that, of course, I mean, I heard both of you in unison saying variety and flavor, right? So, in terms of providing that variety and flavor to the customers, so does that mean that for you to be dealing with or sourcing new producers or growers or suppliers? And how do you go about that?
Yeah, it's a combination. I think some of our long-term suppliers and some new suppliers, have been investing in new varieties. There's been a natural progression, especially if we look at on grapes. There's been a lot of new varieties that have come on board. If we look at blueberries as well, there is a wide range of various breeders and also varieties that have come. Some have been, I want to say, open varieties. Some are, club variety. And it's identifying which varieties we think work within the market. To give you an idea, and it was a number of years ago, we were invited to Brazil to visit one of our producers, and they were trialing over 100 varieties of grapes. And it was our task to try each of them and then give our recommendations on what we thought would work towards the market, and some of those have come to fruition. But this is happening across the board. I've got my one colleague that's in America at the moment, at the invitation of Driscoll's, trying new varieties of blackberries and raspberries and that. So we are constantly in the front to try and source and bring the best flavors to the customers, and that is, working with some new partners perhaps have access to these new varieties, because some of our existing partners don't have it. They haven't planted, and when you plant, it takes years before you start to get the proper production out. So we do have to constantly look. We still go to the fruit shows every year. We're in Berlin, we're in Spain, we're whatever it is. So we constantly
it's a constant process, right? I mean,
yeah, and through this platform as well, it might open up opportunities that somebody watching here will reach out to us, and you never know what comes.
Absolutely. That's our role, Daniel, as bringing the supplier and producer market, supplier and buyer market together, and that too, not just for 3 days during the expo, but throughout the year. So this is one part of our initiative, so that, the exporters and the producers could listen and learn exactly from leaders like you both, so that, they understand, right from the horse's mouth, what's the reality in this market.
And not everybody likes change. The thing is, you unfortunately have certain buyers, and let's say a retailer, who might not be very experienced, might have a couple of years under his belt, and he gets given a sheet and he's told that these are what we need to have on shelf. And anything deviating off that, sometimes they don't have the confidence to be like, okay, but there's something actually better than this. So they just keep buying what they've always bought. There's no innovation. There's no, it's frustrating when I have our salesmen going and, trying to present something new, and they're like, no, but they don't want this new variety. I'm like, but why? It's like, because they've only ever bought this. They don't want to change. I'm like, yeah, but something's got to change. Something's got to develop, because this is better than that.
Exactly.
So you've got to have a passion for it as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't agree more. And Muhammad, what's your take on that? I mean, in terms of ensuring that your customers are getting variety, and does that mean that you look for new suppliers, or you try expanding within your existing panel of suppliers, or how does that work for you?
Yeah, of course. See, first of all, with us, it works in a way that, as I said, that we plan the entire year based on local availability, based on the availability of, like, for example, cherry. Cherry from May to July is available from Lebanon, but after July it's not available. So from July onwards, we have to find a source. We will go for France, we will go for Spain, we might go for Kenya, we might go for India. But this is the first part of the plan with the business, that to fulfill the demand and the consumption requirement of our customers, we first of all plan the whole year. In that whole year, we go for the entire product list, that what products are available in which months, and then planning with the suppliers about the supply chain, and also the customers keep getting what they currently have a demand for. And then comes the innovation part, what new we bring into the market. So there are different varieties of every product that we try to bring in. Everything doesn't work, of course, but it helps us a lot. Our current success rate is about 70%. That any new product we bring in the shop, so about 70% of the products do very well. So that is helping us a lot, because with the right packaging, with the right presentation, right pricing, and all, which is helping the customer to come forward and take a lead to get that product for them, and to have a try on that. So on that, I would specifically say that customers like Kibsons are helping us a lot. So, like for example, there are some traditional, typical retailers over here. If you bring any new thing to them, before a consumer says no, the retailer says no before that, because for them it's something new. They don't want a headache. They don't want to try. They don't want, for them the pricing is different anyway. But there are companies like Kibsons who are welcoming anything new, any innovation, any new packaging, any new some new flavors, new varieties that help them to entertain their consumers. And so that's a big part where we get the confidence that, okay, we have these partners with us that are going to support us in that. So which is a big part of it. Innovation in here also comes in the packaging part as well, the final packages. Because see, the exporter is selling in the bulk packages, 5 kg box, 10 kg box, 7 kg box. Okay, then it's also on us that how do we present that product to a retailer and a consumer together, that it should look attractive. So it's one of the very, very basic and important part. And in organic, there are certain limitations that you have to use. You have to wrap every pack. You have to wrap every packet of it using plastic. But still, we are trying to be as sustainable as possible. We are trying to use as the material that would help the overall environment and everything. So we are innovating. We are spending a lot in the investment in the innovation part of the packaging. So important.
Well, I heard you saying restrictions, or in terms of rules and regulations, right? So we have got a quite good number of them asking, what are the key import requirements or compliance standards that, one of the, if I'm an exporter, what I should be going through, or I should be aware of if I'm planning to export my fresh produce into the GCC, or let's say like UAE.
Yeah, there are two levels to that. First is when you are registering with any customer, like if you are registering with Organic Majlis, as a supplier, you have to provide your organic certificate, and that organic certificate has to be from an authentic, international body that is accepted over here, like Control Union, EcoCert, or ESMA, or MOIA. These are the bodies, even the USDA. There are more as well. So these are the bodies from which the organic certificate has to be provided. So once the organic certificate we got, then we tend to run some lab tests on the products. So we request to receive some lab tests of their products. So this is level 1, that we are satisfied. They have the organic certificate. We got the test reports. We are satisfied. Now the level 2, we place an order, and then comes the requirements that are for the government bodies. For example, we need phytosanitary certificate, we need country of origin, we need packing list, we need invoices. So these are the documents that are not something very hard to attain.
Okay.
It's easy. Any your logistic agent, any of them could help you out with arranging all the documents. It's just that the organic certificate, which is very mandatory, that you need to have it in hand before you are trying to reach out to this market.
Perfect. And Daniel, anything you want to add in terms of any other points that somebody should keep in their head?
No, I think it's covered. I mean, the reality is it is very straightforward. There's very little, protocols in respect to importing the products over here. You just need the basics, like I said, phyto, certificate of origin, etc. Yeah. Obviously, on the organics, it's separate. There would be extras, but yeah, otherwise it's fairly straightforward.
Nice. That's some good news for our suppliers and producers who are listening to us. Yeah. So it's pretty much like an easy to enter market, open market. Yeah. So in terms of re-exports, so what is that market size looking like? And within the GCC, of course, I mean, we all know that there is a whole lot of re-export that happens to multiple countries. What does that re-export looks like?
So, the market has changed over I want to say the past 10 years. The reality is the UAE used to be the central hub for re-exports for the GCC. So the majority of items would come into either Jebel Ali or, into UAE, and then it would either be sold directly into Saudi, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait. And that has changed. That's changed considerably. Reasons. Number one is ease of communication. It's got easier and easier, and connections have been made easier. In the past, it was also difficult in order to get containers and the rest. Now it's very easy to get containers, directly from country of origin to Saudi to anywhere. So that is for the UAE to be involved in this sort of, I want to say, re-export market. It still happens, but it is considerably less than what it used to be. So the majority of what is being imported into the UAE is for the UAE, and each market is different. Often, people will be like, oh, but the market in, let's say, Saudi is doing this. I'm like, that's great, but the UAE is not Saudi, and they're two different markets. So performance also is different between markets. The re-export element is definitely seen a decline. The only challenge comes down to ensuring who you're supplying and getting paid by who you're supplying. It's very easy to sell fruit. It's not so easy to get paid for it, sometimes. So, it's about building, those relationships. It's about, leaning on people that have experience, be it organizational bodies, be it other exporters that you might know or other importers you might know in the region. I've had people that have been exporting to this region, for more than 25 years, and they still make mistakes, and they'll phone me and they'll be like, oh, do you know this guy? I'm like, no. He's like, oh, well, we haven't been paid. I'm like, why didn't you ask me in the first place? So, do your homework, do due diligence. But effectively, to be a success, you have to go direct to these markets. It's very difficult to channel the volumes that we used to do. Because again, the UAE is a smaller market and you're not servicing the outside markets. So everybody has gone direct, and then that cannibalizes all those sales. Yeah.
Right. So I think a very valid point that you mentioned, because we also get, any exporters that reaches us, the first thing they want to know is not the price, not the dates, not what it takes. The first thing to know is, okay, how can you ensure that, okay, the people that we are meeting at your expo or the people that we are connecting them online are verified and they're trustworthy, right? So it's also like a constantly asked question. And of course, we ensure that, whoever we are recommending or we are connecting are verified, personally known to us or to the buyer team and those kind of. But is there any, of course, this is all about, buyer beware kind of a situation. But having said that, in this market, is there any tips that you want to share? From your experience, other than doing the due diligence and, all of that check boxes, are there any specific points that you want to highlight, just to be sure that, okay, somebody's hard-earned produce is, first of all, it is getting shipped and of course they're getting paid, right?
Yeah, I think it comes down to supplying what the market needs and wants. Often there can be shortages, or other markets are calling for product, and they're offering higher prices, and so people sometimes chase the price or whatever thing, or they'll be like, oh, we've got a very small year, so we're going to send you smaller sizes than what your market normally takes. That generally ends up a recipe for disaster. The market knows what it wants. So, if let's say you're supplying oranges and the market wants 72, 88s, 105s, don't send it 40s and 48s. It's going to have an impact. If it's apples, the market wants 110s to, let's say, 165s. Maybe you'll have some off sizes, but don't send it 70s and 80s and 90s. The market's not going to perform where you expect it to be. So I think listen to the customers. And if you can't deliver what is originally planned, then maybe it's best to sometimes say no to a deal rather than chase a deal. That would be my comment. Because sometimes people want it, like they'll be like, no, I think there might be a chance, but that it's not the right size. This is not what the market really wants, but they still take a chance. So sometimes it's best to, the best deal is sometimes no deal. But other than that, supply what the market asks for, and then you should be fine.
Right. Mohammed, how has been your experience, or in terms of what would be your advice?
I would start with, start planning. So first of all, reading the market, understanding the UAE market. If you're planning to enter the UAE market, it's very important. You read the market. You read the local farms. You read the climate. You read what are the limitations, what are the difficulties, what are the local farms producing over there. What are the items which are missing? What are the seasonal planning? So understanding the market is very important. Once you understand the market, you understand the core of it. You know that in January, it is pointless to plan big volumes of tomatoes to export from that part of the world to UAE. It's pointless because locally we have a lot of tomatoes, every variety of it available here. But if you are planning for the tomatoes, you should know that it's June, that is the month you are planning for. So June to November, you should be planning for tomatoes. So same as for every other item, whether it's fruits, whether it's vegetables, you should understand the local market first. You should understand what are the products which are being produced over here, what are the varieties. That is very important. So understanding the market is important first. After you understand the market, another advice for the producer or the exporters would be not to focus on one or two items, because you can't fill up a whole shipment with just apple, or one variety of apple, or one variety of tomato, or one variety of carrot. You have to have at least 10 to 15 items in your production or in your supply, so that a buyer, me, should be able to compile them all together and make a volume enough for me to afford the cost of freight, and to make it to get the maximum benefit out of this deal. So it is important that I should be able to, or the exporter should be able to offer us about 10 to 15 items or more if they can. So if they're aggregators, that's good enough for us. If they're a farmer but having multiple crops, that's again good for us. If there is a farmer who's having only 3 to 5 crops, but he aligned with other farmers and got the whole assortment, about 20 items, that's perfect. So these are the points that an exporter has to keep in mind, that when they are reaching out to this market, they need to have multiple products on their portfolio, so that we should be able to, compile a whole shipment and bring it here for them. And after that, of course, the traceability is the very important part over here. That from the policy point of view and from the customer point of view, from the both, the traceability is very important. So all the whatever the shipments that you guys are sending to UAE, make sure that we should have the whole traceability, data and background of it, so that it could be provided at any time. Yeah.
Well listed down.
And so to cut you off, there's one more thing. It is not necessary that you should send only in the bulk packaging. No, you can always invest in the innovative kind of packaging. Like you can bring up 500-gram apple packaging that looks beautiful, carrying on avocados or grapes or kiwis or something. Any item you pick up, which is a high consumption item, you work on the packaging part, you make it innovative enough, and then it increases the value for them and for us both. So invest in the packaging part. Yeah, that's important.
Interesting. I mean, that's a very, I think between both of you, you have laid down like kind of like a very exhaustive list in terms of, what somebody like, because these kind of information, this kind of advice is generally not available out there, like, even if, you go about trying to find, but that's exactly the reason, that's exactly the platform all about, so that, we are able to take that information straight from, the local leaders like yourself and, take it out to those market out there, right? So I think that brings us to kind of like what I summarized as probably the last question. I think we haven't probably touched upon the pricing element. So the last one would be something around how do pricing, seasonality, and origin influence buyer decisions for, let's say, fruits and vegetables in the GCC? So pricing, seasonality, and origin.
Look, I mean, I want to say pricing is obviously important. I mean, we need to be relative to market. We need to be aware of what consumers are able to afford. But again, not at the expense of a fresh experience. One of the reasons we moved into e-commerce, and we had so much difficulty dealing with certain retailers, and again, purely buying on price. We could lose out on an order. We would quote on a Sunday in the hope that you would get the order on the Monday. And let's say it was a carton of blueberries, and we would lose out for 25 fills or 50 fills over a carton of 12 punnets. That's how petty it became. So you're forced to buy, smaller sizes. You would be forced to maybe buy a cheaper origin. And that came at an expense. So when we started our e-commerce, we could easily pay a little bit more, get a much better product, and share that experience with our customers without breaking the bank. I mean, it was inconsequential really when it came down to it. So pricing does play a part, but it's got to be a balance. You've got to know what you're paying for. Sometimes you do pay a little bit more. Sometimes you do sacrifice on margin. But at the end of the day, you get the footfall, you get the repeat customers. But of course, you don't want to be, miles apart from everybody else. It's still a competitive landscape. There's a lot of retail, there's a lot of e-commerce, there's a lot of choice and availability. So you want to be in line, but you don't want to sacrifice. And it's also, like you say, seasonality, knowing when the seasons change, when is the right time to do the switch. Don't carry, old apples into new season, apple season, and move with it, but sometimes the early part is not the best part. So, you got to know when the right time is to flip that switch. And then origins, of course, origins do play a part depending on your customer base or depending on, the product at the time. There's certain origins that just don't work. You can have, two products exactly the same, but one origin performs well because people trust it and one doesn't, so which origins make sense and which don't, so it does. I mean, pricing plays a part, quality, season, all of that plays in all of our decision making, and I think the sky is blue for everyone. I think everybody should takes that approach.
Very true, Daniel. Mohammed?
Yeah. See, pricing, of course, is the biggest element in any business. I mean, like Daniel gave an example, is fills customer agreement. But as I said, if you study the market, if you study the local seasonality, you would know that in January, on the shelves, local organic tomato is being sold for 8 dirham a kg on the shelf. It's not something I'm supplying it. It's a shelf price, but and if you are planning to sell the same tomato to you this market in the same month for 25 dirham or 20 dirham, of course, it's too far to match. But if you are planning tomatoes in July or August or September, at that point of time, the pricing might vary. The price might vary for the right product, right quality, right taste, and the right packaging. This price might work. So understanding the market is very, very important. Secondly, the cost of freight is too high right now. I mean, in Europe, it's about 2.5 to 3 euro a kg for air freight. I'm talking about. For GCC countries, it's almost the same again. Okay? When the cost of product is too high, and then you plan to post your product at a high price, so altogether it becomes a price which is not easily possible to attain in this market. So you really need to work on the pricing part. The bulk quantities can help you out. Solution is bulk. For example, if you are talking about broccoli, for example, so if you are producing in bulk and you're supplying in bulk, so the price could be managed. Okay, so whenever you are planning to reach out to this market, or whatever the products you are planning to bring in here, try to have some volume of it so that it helps us to get the maximum benefit of the price in that case. And then, of course, the consumer behavior. Well, as long as my experience is concerned, I have seen people, you know, chasing the availability rather than chasing the price. Of course, the price is people, but chasing the availability sometimes gets bigger than the price. So, for example, local broccoli ends in March. Okay? After and it sells a good price. And after March, there's no broccoli in the local market. So if you bring in from other parts of the country, people are willing to pay for that price because for them it's an important ingredient in their daily consumption. Okay? And secondly, they are committed towards the sustainable food system, the sustainable food cycle. So they don't want to move to the non-organic options. Okay, they tend to stay with the organic if it is available. But again, if it's not on the cost of 5 times higher the price. So if the conventional non-organic product is being sold at 10, you can't sell the organic at 50. There has to be a correlation. I mean, it has to be close. From 10 to 15 to 18 to 20, it's understandable. But the prices which you are trying to quote, if it is too far from the non-organic conventional product, of course, it's not going to create any buzz in the market because people have the option and they compare. People are sensitive to the price. They compare. If the difference is 5 times higher, they won't pick that up, even if it is over. They would wait for any other supplier or any other origin to come on the shelf so that they could pick that up. Yeah? So, but ultimately, bringing the product available is the bigger part than the price.
Got it. So I think with that, probably like I've finished all the questions that I have collected, and I think time-wise also we are looking good. So I think before we say goodbye on today's session, so may I ask you to kind of like share what's your giveaway in a sentence or two to those who are waiting to get into this market, because we know that there are many new players. Many of them have been maybe already dealing with this market, but now they have got production, they have got the capacity, so they want to expand. And of course, Dubai being Dubai, it's an ever-changing landscape in terms of improvement of logistics and air connectivity and all of that. So that's a demand that we are usually seeing, be it from Africa, be it from the Americas or Europe. So what would your advice be from each of you in a sentence or two, please?
Well, luckily, we are at the time where it's a golden opportunity for those suppliers, because right now we are in July, the local production is over. About more than 200 farms are out of production right now. So there's a big gap of supply. Of course, a lot of people have flew out to the but there are many consumers who are in the market who want the organic product. So I think it's a very right time for you guys to reach out to this market, to try to tap this market with maximum capacity of availability, pricing, as much as you can do better. So by September, by mid-August, we'll have a back to school. We have people coming back to UL. The demand is going to surge. Whatever the products you are planning to bring in here is going to have a bigger impact in this time period. So I would suggest to be quick, reach out to us, and don't waste much time.
Brilliant, thank you. That's very inviting. Over to you, Daniel.
Yeah, look, I think it comes down to keep knocking on the doors. I think, and those doors, if you don't know which door to knock on, reach out to the people that have the experience, that have the connections. Like this platform. You engage, I want to say, with many different importers around the GCC. So reach out if you don't know. and then through there, challenge the status quo. Be flexible in the way that you want to do business. This is a different market to perhaps some other markets that you work in. So the way of communication, maybe the guys on WhatsApp, or maybe the hours are different, or whatever it is. Each person has their own style, and requirement. But be flexible, keep knocking on the doors, and hopefully they open. I mean, if you got the right product and you got the right timing, and you got the right attitude, it should work.
Absolutely. I mean, it's quite incredible to see that, you both being the leaders in this market. I can see that, with open arms, you're inviting, those growers and producers, which is like really encouraging. But I really loved the open conversation, and really appreciate the time that you spent with our attendees today. I'm sure like they've got a good amount of good deal of advice and practical information that they have gathered today. So formally, it was a pleasure having you all join us for today's Fresh and Perishable focus session on the Organic Majlis. A heartfelt thank you to our insightful speakers for sharing your expertise, and to our engaged attendees for being part of this important conversation. So to wrap up, today's session highlighted how the GCC fresh market is evolving with rising interest in organic, natural, and sustainability grown products. Consumers are actively seeking authenticity, safety, and transparency in what they are consuming. So in general, the shift opens up real opportunities for brands that are ready to align with regional values and deliver quality. So we invite, to everybody, we invite you to continue this conversation and connect in person at the Organic and Natural Expo from 17 to 19 this November at the Dubai World Trade Center. So to know more, you may reach us or write to us directly at info@organicandnatural.com, or please visit our website. But once again, to my lovely panelists, it was amazing to have you both, and I'm sure like we'll continue this conversation, whether it's I don't know, before the expo, if we have time, and if there are requests, definitely we'll do another continued session in terms of follow-on session for Fresh. If not, definitely, we will have that live session at the expo in November. But thank you very much for your time. Loved it. And to all the attendees also, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Bye for now.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.